Alright, well guys, looks like I'm out here talking to myself again. Look at this stick. It's a little snake. What else can it be? Oh, dropped my bag. I'm out here looking for some morels. Don't know if I'll find any, but that's the reason why I'm looking, because I don't know. If I knew I would find some, I'd be out here. And if I knew I wouldn't find any, yeah, I'd probably still be out here. I like being out here. It's hot, it's miserable, no wind, mosquitoes, just about everything I love. Everything I get myself into. Stickers, wasp, weeds, scratches, bruises, rolled ankles, hurt knees. I did hurt my knee already, but I like it out here. Just wandering around. I was trying to decide if I should make this a live video and bore you guys to death, or just record a little film and see if it takes. A little weed. Really no reason to watch this video unless you just want to enjoy the misery with me looking for morels. Not sure what that is. I do have an app on this phone that you can take a picture of it, of a plant, and it'll tell you what that plant is. I use that fairly often. All these plants and trees I've already taken pictures of, and I just have a very short memory, so I'm not sure what all these things are. See, last year when I caught all these morels, these were fully bloomed and they're full of flowers, and they're just now coming out. So it might be too early still, even though it's later in the year. It was colder for a longer time at night, especially at nights. The nights were colder. So maybe that's why I'm not finding any morels. I did actually find about 10 baby morels. Probably come back in about 4 days and pick them. Maybe 5 days. So I just left them there and grow a little bit. Hopefully they grow. Like I said, we haven't had any rain. So I'm wondering if I should take you with me. That's the open way. That's the way a normal person would go. But that's the way I came in. So I don't really want to go back the same way I came in. I already covered that ground. And there's option 1. There's option 2. You see why I get so miserable out here. It's kind of my own doing, my own choice. It's the choices we make. But as far as I know, there's no bears out here. No mountain lions that I know of. There are some turkeys and deer, and morels, berries, mushrooms. Some people say morels aren't mushrooms. Whatever. They're good to eat. These mosquitoes, there's a lot of mosquitoes. They're just not big enough yet. In about another week or so, I don't know that I'll be able to bear it out here. It'll be so thick unless I cover myself with DEET. And I don't really like the idea of doing that. So I'm going to take this option. I could go that way, but I think I might end up there later on anyways. Either way, misery both ways. Just Eeyore around. Yep. Alright. That wasn't so bad. Just nearly poked my eye out. It's alright. dead plants, and they'll come back here. I'm not sure when this plant will be of life again. A month, a couple months. Well, now I'm too busy focused on talking into a camera. I'm not really looking for any morels. Try to control my breathing so I don't sound like a giant fat man. Oh, look at that, a golden oyster. I've actually never found one of these before. It's my first one. So now I wish, oh, look at that. It's actually not a mushroom. It's an old dagger from about the 17th, 16th century, from the old pioneers, Vikings maybe, or Indians. Oh, better leave that alone. Sacred. Alright. Well, that wasn't a golden oyster. Just one of the mushrooms. I don't know when they go grow. I've never found a golden oyster mushroom. There's a little fort. If I were a kid, I'd choose this little tiny hill and kind of sit there and ponder. Got 2 morels, 2 bags, 1 morel for each bag. There's a little valley over here. I'll go check. There's a little baby ash tree. I have a theory that these ash trees, these baby ones, are going to grow and not be affected by the ash borer. It'll be about 15-20 years, you'll start seeing ash trees around again. Hopefully everybody learned their lesson to diversify. When you plant your trees, don't just stick with one tree. Those ash trees are nice and all, but not when they're dead. Not sure what kind of trees these are. Bumblebee. Oh, there it is. It's too fast. Never been stung by a bumblebee. I used to believe that they don't sting you until last year. It was either last year or the year before, my son actually got stung by a bumblebee. I didn't believe it. I think he got stung 2 days in a row. And I didn't believe it the first day. And the second day I actually saw it happen. So, as it turns out, they do sting. He's not one, and he's kind of afraid of stuff like that, so he wouldn't be messing with them. We were just out playing and got stung. Went out the next day. Took me for my word. I told him not to worry about it. Well, probably wasn't even a bumblebee. He went out and got stung again the second day. But I saw it happen the second day, so now I know. I could have looked it up, and I did look it up. Yeah, bumblebees sting. They can sting you, but I was just surprised that I've never been stung. I got 2 pretty cool trails here. They both got sticks that'll poke your eye out. So I'm going to decide which one to take here. I think I'll go this way. I'm walking my back probably about less than 3 feet off the ground. I've learned how to do that from wrestling, so I can navigate through these woods fairly easy. Look at this giant cottonwood tree, twisted branches. A lot of you guys saw my interview with Philip Bierman I posted this last week. We did that interview the week before. We were supposed to have another interview this last week, and that didn't work out, but I'm hoping to make up for it here pretty soon. Gotta catch my breath after walking like that for 20 feet. Not sure what this is. Maybe an old coyote den or something. I'm not gonna put my hand in there. When I was little, I used to put sticks down, that kind of stuff, see if I can get anything to come out, but I don't do that anymore. It's not really nice. So yeah, that interview went really very well, and I'm looking forward to a bunch more. Learning about you guys, learning about North Iowa. See these two branches, they were separate. They grew together. There's actually a hole still that goes all the way through. I have the sun glaring in my camera, so I don't know if that was the right angle to see that. Pretty cool. Hear the birds chirping. Back down the hill, the easy way would be to walk along the ridge here by the road. I don't know if there's anything that way that I want to find, so I'll go back down. It's actually more open this way. That's fine. Can't tell if I got any mosquito bites. I don't think I do. Maybe I had one when I first started, and that's gone. One thing that's lucky for me, whenever I get bit by a mosquito, that poison or whatever kind of goes away after about 10 minutes for me. I know some people, they last for days or weeks, and I had a really bad case when I was working out in Montana when I was about 10, 12 years old. My dad, he'd clear, here I am sitting down. My dad, he would clear these forests for the, would be the National Ranger Station. What's the U.S. Forest Service? And they'd go out and get these contracts or to clear the forests, and it's not clearing them, it's thinning them. These forests out in Montana, Wyoming, Colorado, California, I don't think does it as much. They're really behind in that kind of innovation. But Wyoming, Colorado, Montana, they clear out these forests. So you have a group of, the super thick, dense forests. A lot thicker than this stuff. This stuff is baby stuff. That's, you saw what I was going through. It's really, so this stuff wouldn't need it to be thinned. What they would do is they would take and cut down, and about 20 feet, every 20 feet there can be one tree. Maybe it was 15 feet, there can be one tree. So if you had a 15-foot area, sometimes you'd get 7 trees in that. I'm not even kidding how thick these forests are. You have to cut them down. Maybe it's 30 feet, every 30 feet, but so we were out there doing that, and maybe you'd get 1,000 acres or 2,000 acres you got to clear out, or it's called thinning is the technical term. Thin out these areas, and I'm out there and I get this crazy rash, and it was so bad they did take me to the hospital, and he gave me some ointment or steroids or something at work, and it was getting close enough that school was going to get started again, so they just sent me back home. But ever since then, I've never I guess what would happen is I'd get a mosquito bite. Quick. I can't, let's see if I can draw, okay. I have no idea how this sounds on the camera, so say it's my arm, I get a mosquito bite right there, and then a mosquito bite right there, and I would scratch them, and they would grow, and they would become one mosquito bite, and then I'd get a mosquito bite over here, and I'd scratch it, and now it's a big mosquito, and then eventually I'd have huge welts all over my arms, and they'd be welts on top of welts. So that lasted about maybe 4 or 5 years, and once that stopped happening, I think I just kind of learned how to, I didn't learn, I just decided to use the wisdom that was given to me to not scratch them, not give in to that temptation to scratch. You know, when you do the right thing first, it's a lot easier to resist it later on. But if you do the wrong thing first and then you decide, well, that was the wrong thing, it's so much more difficult to resist it now that you've already taken part of it. So I always made that mistake of scratching those mosquito bites, and they got just huge, and it was just irresistible. You couldn't sleep. So I'd have to relearn that every year. Like, there's a mosquito bite, don't scratch it, just don't. And after so many years, I did finally learn that lesson. I was able to stop scratching them. And I don't know, I guess just after a few years, maybe 18, 20 or so, I just noticed that it wasn't really affecting me anymore. So now I'll get bit by a mosquito, and that bite just kind of goes away in about 5 or 10 minutes. But I had to go through quite a bit of trauma, and I know that there's a lot of people that went through that same type of trauma as they were kids, but they still deal with that as adults. I'm just kind of fortunate that way that it did go away for me. Very thankful to God. I know it's a lot of things to be thankful for. I've probably covered about 4 acres. I've been here an hour and a half. No, I haven't been. Might have been a little over an hour. And I got 2 morels. If you do want to be on the interview, on the podcast, you can kind of gauge from that story that I just told whether that was interesting or not. I think everybody's got interesting stories. Let me know. I'll be glad to have you on the podcast. That's about all it is. It's just chit-chatting, reminiscing, talking about goals or ideas or past circumstances, current circumstances, learning. It's all for learning, or it's all for not. I'm not very hopeful for any morels, so I'm just trying to think of another interesting story. guess I should have went live with this video. You guys can give me ideas. Or I don't know why I'm so hesitant about going live. I keep saying that I will, and I will one of these days. Yep, this reminds me a lot of kind of growing up on the reservation. On the res, it was more desert, but alongside the river, you have thick brush like this. And if you want to get to those fishing holes, you got to go through. We never had a boat, so you either got to walk the river, which it's pretty marshy, so it's just so much, you get filled with mud, and then plus you're right there by, well, I guess it didn't matter. I don't know, I just always thought it was fun. Plus you don't have to get wet. Getting wet and then just being soggy for the rest of the day, that's probably why we never walked the river, just went through the brush like you're seeing me do right now. And then of course doing it in the summers with my dad in Montana and Wyoming. 3 years, 3 summers I did that for 3 months. It's probably more than that, I'm not sure. One time I went to Montana and I came back, and the big news that everybody wanted to tell me was that Burger King changed their sign. And that was the big news in town. Everybody was excited to tell me about that. Burger King changed its sign. How important is a logo? Apparently it's pretty important. What's my logo gonna be? Loco in the cabeza. Or logo, not loco. I like these sticks. What I would do, oh look, there's a pheasant back. This is a very edible mushroom. I just picked a ton of them about a week or so ago, maybe about 3-4 pounds worth. And we had our fill. I won't pick this one, just let it dry out. I've been around this woods for a while and haven't seen too many of them, but where I picked them from in the other woods, there was just so many. This is a good one right here, but when they get about this big, like way out here, you just want to cut out this outer edge, and that's the edible part, this tender outer edge, and that stuff actually turns into wood and around the center. But anyways, what I was saying, one reason why I like these sticks, I keep showing you these dead sticks. What I would do when I was little in Montana is I would lean on them like this, and that was kind of my workout. I'd see, I would just keep leaning on it and break it, and then I would have a giant stick to throw around the forest. And you kind of see, I guess it's kind of, I'll explain what my job was in Montana. So my dad, he had about 3, 4, 5, 6 guys working for him, clearing out or thinning out this, 3, 4, 5, 10,000 acre forest. And they'd have the summer to do it. So each one of them would have their saw with them, kind of a medium-sized saw, maybe an 18-inch bar or so, and they'd cut down these trees about this size, well, any size, it doesn't matter how big they were. Some of them were about that big, That's actually a bigger one. Most of them were around that size, stuff like that. But when you're cutting by the thousands in a day, it's a lot of work. So what they would do is they would make progress, and with their gas tank, they'd run out of gas, and they would be 400 or 500 yards away. Probably not that, probably a good 200 yards away. So you're not going to want to cut hunched over carrying a 20-pound saw for 8 hours a day, cutting trees down, being bit by mosquitoes, 80, 90 degrees, humid, hills, steep hills, and then carrying water, and then carrying gas, and carrying oil and your tools. So my job was to carry all the water, the gas, the oil, the tools, and I would just hoof it to each one of these guys. They'd be about 500-600 yards apart, and I would just travel the woods looking for them. I can hear them from the saw, so I would just follow the chain sound of the saws, and I'd go and stop one of them and let them know to take a break, and I'd fill up their saw with gas and oil, give them water. If they needed a tool, I would have it. Well, I guess they would have their own tool on them, but yeah, I'd do that for one guy, and then I'd hike through the woods like this, find the next chainsaw, stop him and tell him to take a break, fill up his, and that's what I would do. I just bounce around the woods 400 or 500 yards at a time by myself. And meanwhile, if I was good enough, which of course I was, that's what I would do. I'd find ways to spend my time out in the woods. I'd break sticks, I'd walk on logs, I'd roll them over, see what I can find. That was pretty fun. Pretty fun childhood I had. Thinking, always thinking. No Game Boy, no phone, no headset, no cassette player, no music. Just me in the woods, thinking about how miserable my life is, enjoying it. I saw some moose, saw some bears, cool stories like that. Saw Wolverine, saw some ants, termites, wasps, chickens. Believe it or not, they got wild chickens in those forests, and I always wanted to catch one, so I did my best. I never could though. I'd always see them and I'd track them down with rocks and chuck my rocks at them. I'd always miss, and maybe I had about 20 or 30 chances to kill a wild chicken out there in the woods, and failed every time. But yeah, don't you know, they got wild chickens running around Montana, running around the mountains. You're probably thinking they were pheasants or turkeys, and I assure you they were not pheasants and they were not turkeys. If you take a chicken and you put it in the woods, that's what I saw. A wild chicken. Not a wild chicken, but flocks of them all over.